Pleased to welcome to the Daily Faceoff show Corey Masiak, who covers the San Jose Sharks for The Athletic. Corey made the midseason move from New Jersey covering the Devils all the way out to the Bay Area. So, Corey, welcome to the show. And got to start with this big news. As we mentioned, Doug Wilson steps aside after 19 years. Not necessarily a shock. I think everyone was hoping that his health would allow him to continue, but having not been on the job since November, the Sharks have had a little bit of time to prepare for this instance. They now begin an extensive external search. What can you tell us about the process, and what do you expect to unfold here over the next days and weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting, kind of maybe possibly drawn out process. One of the most interesting things to come out of yesterday was the interim GM Joe Will and the team president Jonathan Becker saying that they're going to start with the external candidates first. They're going to make a list of external candidates. They're going to reach out and interview, as many of them as they can. Basically their thinking is that Doug Wilson's staff has been together for, a lot of the people have been there for 19 years. It's been a very kind of continuous group. And so, they're looking for, I think Jonathan Becker used the phrase, a fresh perspective. They want to see what everyone else has been doing, if there are ways that they can improve in certain areas. They've obviously had a lot of success with Doug Wilson as their general manager, but they're just sort of like, going to look around and see what else is out there. And then the other thing was that they admitted that this could take a while. They're not trying to rush to get somebody in just so that person can run the draft or free agency. They said basically the goal was we'd like to have a new general manager, by the start of next season.
Corey, the Sharks are obviously a team with an aging core. We know those 4 contracts, the 3 guys on the blue line, Carlson, Vlasic, and Burns, and then Couture up front, that have really steep contracts that go for a lot of years. What does new management come in and do with that group, and how will they view those contracts in particular?
Yeah, that's also, to me, one of the most interesting parts of this whole deal is that they basically said, look, we're going to look for fresh ideas, and we're, very possibly going to hire an external candidate as the GM, but that person is also going to have to basically fall in line with Hasso Plattner's idea that there's no rebuild coming here. Like there's plenty of people in the, sort of in the fan base who have been looking for it, but it's just, they feel that their core is still good enough to win, make the playoffs, go as far as they can right now. And so I think the next, certainly the next year or two, if not longer, basically the new GM's mandate is going to be, okay, here's the guys that you have. What can you do sort of around them? Maybe it does mean moving one of those big contracts at some point. They all have pretty heavy trade protection, so that might, obviously be difficult, but just what can they do with, drafting and developing and, trying to make trades, trying to find some value free agent signings. Just what can they do sort of around this core to get them back into playoff contention.
Corey, do you have any clue why Sharks ownership in specific seems to be so resistant to a rebuild? I mean, you take a look at the evidence that we have now. This is going to be the 3rd straight year that the Sharks are in sort of lottery territory. The NHL's no man's land, not close enough to the playoffs, not really close enough to have all the ping pong balls in your favor. The goal differential this year, there's a lot of evidence over a number of years to say this isn't just a one-off, that your core can kind of sort of turn it around quickly. What faith do they have in this group? Where's it coming from that they can get back quickly to where they want to?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is that this is just the way that Hasso Plattner feels that a sports franchise should be run. I think he just doesn't necessarily believe in the that you have to tank to get back to the top kind of model. They have said some things about like the market and all the things that people, we don't want to lose more fans, all of those things. As for the roster, they were hanging around the playoff chase for, let's say, about 2/3 of the year. Erik Karlsson got hurt. A couple other guys got hurt, and it went sort of, it went downwards in a hurry. But I do think, like, if you look at what they thought they were going to have this year, the biggest thing that they don't have right now is they just can't score goals. Like they're a pretty good defensive team. They've gotten good goaltending. They just can't score. And, they have almost $12 million Evander Kane and Kevin LeBanc, and those two guys have combined to score 3 goals for them this year. LeBanc because he got hurt, and Kane, everything that went on with him. So I do think there will be a little bit of, if they get LeBanc healthy, if William Eklund comes in next year, if they find another guy or two out there somewhere, like Alexander Barabanov was a good pickup for them. They're just, I think, and then they're going to have a little bit of cap space depending on what happens with the Kane situation. So I do think they're sort of like, they think that they're not as far away as maybe some other things suggest that they are, and that's sort of the plan.
Interesting. Corey, very quickly, just give us one name, if you can, to keep an eye on that you think could be a prime target for the Sharks in their GM search.
Oh man, honestly, that's the thing. Like, I talked to a handful of people yesterday who were like, I'm like just thinking, or even sitting there and thinking, like, it seems like with any thing like this, a coach search, a GM search, you start looking around the league for connections, like who is connected to the Sharks. They've kept their thing together for so long that it's not like there's necessarily a former assistant general manager who went someplace else and is ready to just for his job. I mean, I think obviously, like, if you look at all the searches from this year, I mean, I think Matthew Darche has been, one of the finalists for pretty much every single vacancy out there. I mean, it might get to the point where he doesn't, he's worried that he's not. Does he just want to be a bridesmaid every time or whatever? But I think they're gonna, all the things that people said about sort of like Chicago's search, where it was a diverse, they looked around, they definitely seemed like they're pretty intent on interviewing at least one player agent. So maybe there'll be, one of the big power agents will be involved in this. But it seems like there's going to be a lot of candidates, and we're not really sure what direction it's going to go at this point.
Fascinating stuff. We'll be paying attention, Corey. Thanks so much for joining us. You can follow Corey on Twitter at CMasiak22. You can read his work on theathletic.com. Corey Masiak covers the Sharks. This has been another edition of the All 32 delivered by DoorDash. You see the promo codes there at the bottom of your screen. DFODD if you're in Canada, DFODDUS if you're in the United States. That gets you 25% off and free delivery on your first order from DoorDash. It's Friday night. You don't want to cook. Masters weekend. All your favorites and more delivered right to your door by DoorDash.